Okay, let's try tracing this function here, the row and rules lots function. I've already loaded the program, as you can see. Now, row and rules lots takes one argument, so we need to put something in there. If I run it just to show you, row and rules lots, and I put in 3, then it writes row and rules, row and rules, row and rules 3 times, and then CS is cool. So let's just trace this and see how that works. As soon as I type row and rules lots 3 and hit enter, the function starts to run. Oh, by the way, just in case you haven't watched a video before, here's my command area. That's this black area. These are the variables that happen to be in there. And this is my output area where stuff's going to get printed. Okay, so as soon as I start running the row and rules lots function, I get a new window for that. I get a new piece of scrap paper, let's say, for that, where I'm going to keep my notes on it. It's called row and rules lots. Okay. And any variables that I create are going to go into this box. Now, when I ran the function, I ran it with the command row and rules lots with 3 in parentheses. So this 3 is going to go into the how many variable. So as soon as I start to run this function, I get for free a variable called how many. And in this case, it's of type int because I passed in the number 3 and the value is 3. So now that we've dealt with the arguments, we start to run the function. It says print row and rules times how many. Remember, with a print, we evaluate what the print has to print. In this case, it's row and rules times how many. Well, what's how many? Oh, how many is 3. Okay, so we are going to multiply this string. You know, when you multiply a string, you end up printing the thing. You end up repeating the string that many times. So we're going to print in the output area to run this thing. We're going to print row and rules. And then we're going to print it again. And then we're going to print it again. And if our output area were a little wider, you'd see that's all in one line. Okay. And then we hit enter. And the next line says print CS is cool. That's fine. We can do that. CS is cool. And we hit enter. We're done the function. Trust me, there's nothing else in this function. When we finish the function, we always scrumple up that piece of scrap paper we had. So row and rules lots gone. That box is totally gone. Okay. Now suppose we run it again, and this time we run it. So there's that time. Suppose we run it again, and this time we run it with, let's make it 2 so it's easier to do. 2 as an argument. Okay. We start the whole same process again. We've got to have a new piece of scrap paper where, let's bring that to the front. We have a new piece of scrap paper that we're going to run our function on. The function is called row and rules lots. And we see from the function it's got a single argument called how many. So we got to take this, make a variable box. The name is how many. The type, well, it's another int, so it's an int. The value this time is 2. Notice this piece of paper is essentially crossed out, gone. It doesn't exist anymore. It's been scrumpled up. Right? So now we're running this one. We get into the function. It says print row and rules times how many. Well, what's how many? Well, I look on my piece of paper for row and rules lots. Okay, how many is 2? So I'm going to write row and rules. Row and rules. Hit enter. Next line. Print CS is cool. Hit enter, done the function, and so this piece of paper, right, these notes for that function crumpled up, totally gone. Right. Now what happens if I say down here how many gets 3? Well, let's make it 5. Okay. When I do that, I end up, I need to copy this guy, sorry. I end up with a global variable, a variable in my command area, right? It's called how many, and its value is 5, right? It's of type int, so that's here. So one question you might ask is, can I just now say row and rules lots and not put, oops, and not put anything in the parentheses, right? And the answer is no. The answer is if you do that, what happens is the system makes a new function box. It says the function is called row and rules lots. says, I need to have a new variable. That variable's called how many. What's in the, oh, wait a minute, there's nothing in the parentheses. They didn't give me anything. And since you didn't give them anything in the parentheses, the system gives you an error, right? It says inappropriate argument type. Well, the error was Rowan rules lots takes at least one argument, 0 given, right? It doesn't know. So we can't run it without doing that. Right? The other thing that's interesting is if I say, let's see, I don't know, foo gets 3. Well, of course, as soon as I say foo gets 3, you get another box up here. Its name is foo. The type is int. The value is 3, right? So now we've got two global variables. We've got how many and we've got foo. If I run now the function Rowan rules lots on foo, you can imagine that there's two things that would happen, right? This particular function right here, this box bomb. So let's just get rid of it for a minute. Right? What actually happens is we start running the function, so we get a piece of scrap paper for it. Right? And then we say, all right, well, I have a variable. These boxes that I'm moving around aren't really copying from there, right? They're just new boxes. I hope you understand that. I put a new box in this Rowan rules lots space. The new variable, well, the new variable in Rowan rules lots, I call it how many. So I always call it how many because that's what it's referred to inside of the Rowan rules lots function. I don't care what it's called anywhere else. Right? The type, well, what was in the parentheses? Foo was in the parentheses in the command area, and foo is of type int and is 3. So down here, the thing I'm going to copy in here is an int and is 3. Now notice I've now got two variables called how many. I have one called how many that's up in the global variables in the command area, and I have one called how many that's in the Rowan rules lots function. And what happens is when we run the function, it says print Rowan rules times how many. Well, which how many should I use? Well, let me look in here. And if I have something called how many in here, then that's what I'm going to use. And I do indeed. So I need to print it 3 times. So I print Rowan rules, Rowan rules, Rowan rules. And it's printing 3. It's just behind the other thing. And the next line of code says print CS is cool. So I do that. We're done the function. So as usual, we cross out the paper and start again. Right? So if I do that, you see it runs it 3 times. Notice, though, that at this point, if I say print foo in here, well, what's foo? Foo's 3. Right? If I say print how many, well, what's how many in the command area? It's 5. These guys are all crossed out, right? Okay, hope that helps.